did a proof of concept the night before and it worked, and then entered the hackathon. We worked on it for just like nonstop for like 2 days. The teams there didn't take us seriously because they were doing like the sort of like applications that were like supposed to like be big and change the world, and we're just like, we're building Snake.
Welcome to Peer-to-Peer's Spotlight Series. Spotlight Series is a platform for hiring managers, referrers, and candidates to showcase their talents and opportunities within the startup ecosystem. In our second episode, we're excited to introduce Mike, who usually goes by his last name Jonas. Jonas is a really talented and well-rounded product engineer, and he is currently on the hunt for new opportunities in the AI/ML space. He's built and managed his own business, worked on product and growth at Patreon, and most recently was a founding engineer at FutureSwap. In addition to Jonas's professional experience, you'll hear about how poker led him to software engineering and how he won the judges over for Y Combinator's hackathon by building a revamped Snakes. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a role that you're hiring for or want to refer Jonas to a role, please reach out via Ask for an Intro on his profile page. If you're looking to be featured or know someone who would benefit from our service, please reach out to us at intro@peertopeer.app. All the information is included in the description below.
Awesome. Well, we're really happy to have you, Mike, on Spotlight Series today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. Maybe tell us a bit about yourself. I understand you have an unconventional path for your education.
Yeah, my education was definitely unconventional. So out of high school, I went to art school, and actually when I was in high school, I didn't want to go to college at all. Sort of like 15, 16-year-old me didn't respect a lot of like the teachers that I had that were telling me that things had to go a certain way in life. Like you have to go to school for X or else you're not going to like succeed. But I had like big ambitions and like other things I wanted to do. But anyway, I ended up going to art school, sort of had a protest.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you get into software engineering?
Software engineering, what led me there? So I always loved making websites since I was like 12, 13, and just like even personal websites that like redesign them over and over again and enjoyed that process. And this is an aside, but in college, I got really good at online poker. And actually like that was like my first career, turned that into like sustainable income for myself. And then when I got sort of like bored of that, I was bored of actually playing. I was still like really into the poker scene, and I realized there was just like a lot of opportunity to create like applications and tooling in the space. And I realized that I could like take my learnings from when I was just like building websites over and over again for myself to this area and create actual business out of it.
Nice. That is so cool.
Thanks.
How did you transition from that to working for Patreon?
Yeah, so I actually had some success with those websites that I created, the websites and applications that I created. Learned a lot just trying to create something from scratch, figuring out how to like market it, bring people over, build things of value, what kind of like content people liked, what things mattered, what things didn't. Did some like hiring, made some mistakes. So I got like so much experience in that time, sell some of those companies, and moved out to California, worked for a company out here. So I had this like kind of like windy, sort of like unconventional path. And so in joining Patreon, I really wanted to, like, I was really excited about the mission, getting creators paid through sustainable, like income. I think that's like something that I at least understood from my own background a little bit, and wanted to join them because wanted to work with really smart people, talented team, and they really liked my background. And so I was able to join as a senior engineer there.
Very cool. And what did you do for them?
So I joined as a product engineer and ultimately shifted more towards growth. And the story there was when I first joined, I built a mm, I built this I felt like the logged out experience was just like really bland and boring. So I built a discovery page,
Nice.
something that and that allowed that sort of like surfaced creators that were doing well that like either recently launched, sort of like or that were on the platform for a while, and were growing algorithmically.
Hmm.
And that page ended up being very controversial internally because like half the company was very against discovery for certain reasons, and the other half was really pro discovery. 6 months of it being live, and it ended up getting taken down. And at the like kind of what I realized was nobody really knew for sure because we didn't really have data on it.
Hmm.
And at the same time, a product was like launching features and they were like really exciting to launch, but they kind of like lingered around and there was like product debt and tech debt. And we weren't like measuring things too well as a company. And so I became very passionate about just like gathering data and shifting the culture to be more growth oriented. And so I helped start the growth team and built this experiment dashboard that was like this like really nice UI, where teams or any employee could just like see historical experiments that were created. You could create experiments, you could set the variants, multiple variants, and roll them up, roll them down. And yeah, and so in doing so and making like experiments easily accessible there, that helped shift the culture to be more growth oriented and measurable. So now when we launch features, like we could actually see which worked and what didn't.
I think I heard from the grapevine that you had a really interesting hackathon experience.
Oh yeah.
Talk about
So yeah, so the hackathon, this was like one of my most memorable or experiences and things I'm the most proud of. And so uh, I think it was like 2019 or 2018, Y Combinator held this hackathon, and they don't hold hackathons. This is like their first one ever that I know of, but like their biggest, and it was invite only, only 40 teams accepted, and in person, and teams from like sort of like around the world. And I ended up winning the hackathon. And I'll like sort of like explain the story behind it, but by building this game of Snake.
that.
Um, yeah, which is was surprising for everyone there because so like leading up to the hackathon, my friend really wanted to enter it and build something like special that like use technology to change the world.
Mhm.
But all of the ideas were kind of just like good ideas, but not that technically interesting. And so we just like couldn't come up with anything. Day before the hackathon, I had the spark of inspiration. We were playing this game like Slither.io, which is like a multiplayer snake game, and and having a lot of fun with that. So build something like that in a decentralized way with like unique game mechanics and incentive mechanics and stuff. Did a proof of concept the night before and it worked, and then entered the hackathon. We worked on it for just like nonstop for like 2 days. The teams there didn't take us seriously because they were doing like the sort of like applications that were like supposed to like be big and change the world, and we're just like, we're building Snake. um and so we finally got it done right before the presentations. It was a Stacks judging panel. It was Adora Chung, Sam Altman, and Michael Siebel, and they were being very hard on like the teams, like being very like
Hmm.
just like specific about like what's not good, and making sure that they're like dreaming big and like having big enough visions for their applications.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we presented Snake, which I was really proud of how it came out. It was like a genuinely fun game,
Huh.
and the judges loved it. They loved our pitch, and like what it could become, not just like the game of Snake, but just like, I don't know, we kind of like came up with a fun pitch too. Sam Altman said like, he's like, yeah, I would play that.
Nice.
And yeah, we didn't expect it, but we ended up winning the whole hackathon
That's
with that.
amazing. What a great story. It's kind of like you get a validation from Y Combinator on a game instead of, some like applications. I mean, not to say that, yours didn't, but it
Oh,
was,
totally. Yeah.
so sort of more on the fun side rather than like an application that had like a serious mission behind it almost.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they were just so bored of every team sort of like coming in with like similar missions and using technology to like do this big thing. And I think like half the teams couldn't even like build anything. So like we actually like executed on something and did something unique that stood out. So I think they appreciated that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of decentralization, I know that has something to do with FutureSwap.
Mhm.
You can tell us a bit about what you've worked on over there.
Yeah, so FutureSwap was a startup that I joined a couple of months after I left Patreon. Just like pre-product, pre-funding, apart from like a $10,000 pre-seed round,
Hmm.
which wasn't, if you even want to count that. But yeah, so the vision there was to build decentralized exchange that was just like more open and more fair than anything else. And so that's something that like I really that resonated with me.
Hmm.
Like for example, Robinhood
Yeah.
is free, but actually what they're doing is just like front running all the trades that you do. It's like payment for order flow. So
Hmm.
stuff like that should be illegal. So so we set out to build something that was like better in certain ways and more fair.
Hmm.
And it was at the time when crypto was just like nobody, it was like essentially dead. Nobody believed in it at all. But saw like these bubbles of like decentralized finance and some like applications starting to like figure it out in the space, and it was like really inspiring. So we wanted to sort of like build something in that space and just like build our little like piece that people would hopefully love using. And it took some like engineering to build a system that like actually worked on. We had to build it on Ethereum because that was the only option at the time,
Hmm.
which is really inefficient. But we figured out sort of like a model that didn't necessarily like compete with directly with everything else that was out there, but provided like unique value and benefits to the users that wanted to use the application, and also had a vision for how one day it could be better than anything else.
No.
So yeah, so that's the company, and then what I did was basically a little bit of everything, but like almost entirely on my own. Just did like the whole client side application of that.
Wow, it sounds like if somebody were to build Coinbase from scratch for
Yeah,
what?
yeah. That was me. It was a lot. Like if they were to build Coinbase from scratch, and also like that person also had to like do all like the social media and marketing and community management too.
Oh, is that what you did for them? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so to build a startup, it's not just about building an amazing or an MVP or whatever you want to call it, just like a good application. You have to figure out how to like get users, and especially in the financial space, you need to build trust. Trust is the most important thing. And so something that I really cared about was just interacting with users and being able to sort of like tell the story just over and over again to the users through Twitter and Medium. And I think the other people on the team, there's just three of us. It was a scrappy team, but they weren't the best writers. And so I kind of like took that on myself to be the person to do that.
Nice. So you were
Yeah.
essentially the ghost writer for FutureSwap.
Yeah, I did some writing of my own and then for like under my name, and I also ghost wrote, I guess you could say, for the Twitter, but
Nice.
maybe some articles for some other people that worked there, but I won't get into that.
Very cool. So it sounds like, you definitely are a generalist when it comes to skill set, and obviously you have a passion to um, be a part of that customer feedback loop, which is great. What are you looking for next in terms of opportunity?
So I think what I'm looking for next is just another area where I could just learn and grow something different. I don't want to do crypto again. Already did that. And
Mhm.
where I see like the most growth and excitement right now is just the AI space, using AI to augment various things. I think that's just so interesting. Uh,
Mhm.
and also looking to work with a very strong team, of course, but like, team with experience and passion.
Nice. If I can double click a little bit on strong. So you mentioned competency, and I guess like what else is that the main thing you're looking for, or are there other things?
Oh yeah, I'm glad that you asked to follow up on that because I think more important, way more important than being strong for me is just being like nice and open-minded and low ego.
Mm,
And so I would say that I'd actually much rather work with mid-level or junior people that are very like nice and energetic and open-minded versus strong team that's just like very rigid and that's sort of like know-it-all tech lead persona. I think that
mm,
can be very toxic. So
mm.
I guess there's some nuance there.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think this is a good segue into what are you looking for in hiring managers. So maybe let's divide that into two because I think you're open to a variety size of company from very early stage to maybe below 200, I want to say. Is that
Yeah, and I think that's generally true, but in this AI space, I think there's so much potential where you'll see companies that are even like 2, 3 years old that have hundreds of people that are still young. So
for sure? Okay.
yeah, I have a pretty good range, but early stage, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe we can divide this question out into two sections. So the first one would be if you're joining a super early team where you're like the founding engineer, maybe talk about what you look for in the founders.
So early stage team with the founders, what I look for is just a team that's really passionate, like that genuinely cares about the mission. That's not in it for the money grab or the power, and that truly wants to see this thing get built because that's going to allow you to go through like the ups and downs, the hard times and the good times, and sort of like not get burnt out and keep going. You want to make sure that uh, like everyone can continue to work hard. So I think that's a trait that I look for, and um, it's generally across the board. Like I said earlier, they just have to also be nice people, open-minded people,
Yeah.
cognitively flexible because things are going to get crazy in a startup.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think, I guess in your mind, what makes a really good founder?
Um, what makes a good founder is someone that's just driven, and they might even appear to be like irrationally driven. Like other people are just like, why is that person like that? But they just like care so much about building that things. And I think that energy sort of spreads to other people and it's contagious.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good trait. And it's almost like technical strength is like can be very valuable, but that's not even the most valuable thing. I think you can be various levels of like technically strong or experienced in certain ways, but if you care enough, you can make something happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about for like an engineering manager?
Um,
What do you look for there?
do you mean sort of like at like mid, sort of like a bigger size company? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so for an engineering manager, with that, I look for experience and someone that is more technically strong, that has seen a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be able to sort of just like help be a mentor and guide the team through different um, pits and valleys, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's important that they're also nice and they have your, well, I keep saying nice, um, but that they sort of have your back and they want the best for you. And it's not a relationship where it's like, I am the manager and you are beneath me. It's more of, we're all still working together on this and picking up slack here and there. And I want to see you succeed. What do you want in your career? I think those are like good questions that the manager should be asking and helping with.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh,
It sounds obvious, but we've all heard stories where that's not the case. So
oh, absolutely. I mean, it's really hard to be a good manager and yeah, to your point, I think you'll be surprised. It sounds like a no-brainer, everything that you've said, but it's actually quite hard to find somebody who does support you in that way. So, yes, totally all fair statements.
yeah, okay.
Awesome. Well, then I guess in terms of team culture, I know we kind of covered a little bit there. If you don't mind, maybe just and I guess let's say in the larger company sense, you know, the team culture, kind of what do you look for?
I guess I covered some like general like traits of like the types of people that I like working with. And every company is different, so every team's going to have different styles, and so I don't want to just generalize saying like this is the right thing.
Yeah.
Um, because it might be the right for one company and not right for another company.
Mhm.
But I think one culture that I like is when a team can be very in tune with the end users.
Mm.
And so that does mean sort of like um, learning, like deeply learning about like the product and what it's trying to solve, and not just the technical problems. And I think this is good for companies that are like at least 500 or less, or 200 or less.
Yeah.
At bigger companies, you can be more of that like cog. But one thing that I've seen that I really liked is when periodically members, non-community or support members, actually have to play the role of support and see what it's like getting this influx of questions from customers and having to respond to that. I think that gives the team good empathy for the end user and helps just overall like shape better product and code and everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mike, so much for being on the show today. If anyone would like a warm intro to Mike, please click on Ask for an intro on Mike's profile page attached below. Again, thank you so much, Mike, for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.